Early in a crisis, the dangers associated with the crisis rightly take precedence. But the opportunities that crises present are often missed because they come later in the crisis and they take some deliberate, intentional work. I say this because we have been living with the crisis of a pandemic for over a year, and we're not out of the woods. We need to continue to take every appropriate safeguard, from wearing masks to social distancing to avoiding crowded indoor spaces. But this crisis of the pandemic also offers us some opportunities to think about what will life as the church, what will life as Christians, as followers of Jesus, look like as we begin to come out of this crisis into a new and changed world. I say this because we're making steady progress. We're aiming for Labor Day for us to be back in church fully, but we can take some incremental steps between now and then. In the month of May, we're going to move the outdoor worship service to 10 o'clock. Hopefully, more will be inclined to come and gather in person safely outside. We'll live stream the 8 o'clock service so that everyone can participate in worship. And then in June, we're going to move to inside worship at the 10 o'clock hour and flip 8 o'clock back to outside. We can take up to 75 people if the numbers allow, if we do all of our protocols, which we will do, but we're making progress toward regathering as God's people in an intentional fashion. But more than that, we need to spend the summer thinking about what are things going to look like in the fall. Oh, I just don't mean service schedules and the such, but rather, what are we as the community called St. Mary's? What are we going to take out of this time of enforced exile so that our witness to the risen Christ really takes on a depth that perhaps we haven't been able to appropriate before? One idea is whether we might really gather through reading a book together, a compelling, challenging book talking about how does the church pour its life out for the world in a world that is in desperate need of that witness, but how do we do it? But what if we all committed to reading that book over the summer and discussing it so that when we came back in the fall, we really were empowered and energized to stand tall as disciples in ways that as yet, perhaps we haven't had the opportunity to do. Remember that we're, again, now that we can gather outside safely, our small social justice walks will continue, because that is a witness of the gospel and one that we will continue to make. We will continue to stand fast with our brothers and sisters at Santa Maria to ensure that those most impacted by the pandemic, and remember those are people of color, those are people who largely do not have the resources that many of us do, how do we witness to the love of God for the entire created order? Those are big questions, and your clergy and staff and vestry really want to explore them together with you. You'll be receiving some updated guidelines for how we're going to continue to try to regather. We as yet are not going to be able to return to allowing outside groups to use our inside spaces because that's just not, the numbers just aren't there yet. So all of this is dependent, of course, on science, dependent on, in fact, what the medical conditions allow. So they may change, and let's hope they change for the better. But just invite your prayerful consideration as to how are we going to be church, because the danger that we are going through is very real, but so are the opportunities. And I hope that we won't be blind to them. And I think that if we are intentional and prayerful about embracing them, that God will work in and through us in ways that we can't even perhaps imagine right now. But God has a way of surprising us all. Thanks for listening to this Tuesday Thought. God bless.